Part 1. You weren't born weak. You were programmed to be. You think weakness is natural. You think it's part of your personality. You think you were just born that way. Cold mind knows that's a lie. You weren't born weak. You were programmed to be. From the moment you entered the world, you were fed scripts. Scripts that taught you to comply, to wait, to ask for permission. Scripts that taught you to fear mistakes, to avoid conflict, to shrink yourself when others raised their voice. Every time you were told, be careful, don't be difficult, play nice. Another line of code got written into your system, not to make you strong, to make you manageable. By school, family, systems, all craving obedience, not power. And over time, that script became your internal voice, not because it's who you are, but because it's what you learned to perform. Cold mind cuts through the illusion. If you were programmed into weakness, you can unlearn it. If you were trained to submit, you can retrain to rise. The script is not your nature, it's your cage. And now, we break it. Part 2. How weakness was installed in you without you knowing. You think weakness is part of who you are, that you were just born. A little more hesitant, a little more cautious, a little less powerful than others. But cold mind knows that's not your identity. That's your installation. Weakness is not something you inherit. It's something you absorb. It's something installed into you, piece by piece, until you can't tell, where the real you ends and the programmed script begins. Let's break it down. System 1. Family conditioning. From the moment you were young, you were taught to play small. Be careful. Don't speak back. Don't upset anyone. You were rewarded when you were quiet, obedient, pleasing. You were scolded when you questioned, resisted, or asserted yourself. Every time you backed down, you were kept safe. Every time you softened, you were accepted. So your brain learned compliance equals survival, not because you were weak, but because you were adapting. System 2. Educational programming. In school, you were trained to fit inside boxes, follow the rules, wait your turn, stay within the lines. You weren't rewarded for taking risks. You were rewarded for following templates. When you got something wrong, you were punished. When you colored outside the lines, you were corrected. Slowly, the lesson sank in. It's safer to hold back than to reach forward. System 3. Social framing. Among peers, you learned the art of masking. Don't stand out too much. Don't disagree too loudly. Don't push too hard. Blend in. Conform. Hide your sharper edges. Why? Because standing apart invited criticism. Because holding firm invited pushback. You weren't weak. You were managing. Social survival. System 4. Cultural narratives. Then came the media, the stories you consumed, the images you absorbed. Strength was shown as loud, aggressive, flashy. Real power, quiet, internal, disciplined, was rarely honored. So you believed, if I'm not loud, I'm not strong. If I'm not dominating, I'm not powerful. But cold mind knows true power has nothing to prove. It doesn't need external display. It needs internal command. System 5. Emotional conditioning. Finally, you were shaped by fear. fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being too much. So you shrank yourself preemptively before anyone else could cut you down. You limited yourself before the world had a chance to. Over time, this became automatic, not because it's your nature, but because it's the code you were forced to run. Here's the shift. If you learned to submit, you can unlearn. Submission. If you learned to hesitate, you can retrain. Decisiveness. If you learned to shrink, you can rebuild. Expansion. Weakness was never your nature. It was your conditioning. And conditioning can be broken. Cold mind doesn't tell you to become someone new. It tells you to peel off what was never you. To begin with, to strip away the scripts that were written into your mind without your consent, to reclaim the power that's been waiting underneath. Part 3. Signs you're living by weak scripts without realizing it. You don't walk around thinking, I'm weak. You tell yourself, I'm just cautious. I'm just humble. I'm just careful. But cold mind knows. Beneath those words, hidden scripts command you. Weak scripts, installed long ago, now automated, so deeply, you think they're you? Let's break down the signs. 1. You always ask for silent permission. Before you act, you mentally check, is this okay? Will they approve? Am I allowed? You don't take space, naturally. You hesitate, waiting for an invisible green light. Cold mind sees it. This isn't humility. It's pre-installed compliance. You've been trained to seek approval before movement. 2. You shrink when faced with strength. In rooms with stronger personalities, you lower your voice. You soften your opinions. You adjust your posture, not consciously, automatically, because somewhere inside you carry a rule. When force appears, I must contract. But cold mind knows this reaction isn't natural. It's learned submission. 3. You downplay your wins. You accomplish something, but instead of owning it, you brush it off. It's no big deal. I just got lucky. It's not perfect yet. You've been conditioned to stay small, to avoid threatening the status quo. You don't want to be too much. But cold mind asks, who taught you to fear your own success? 4. You overthink before taking space. You have an idea, a request, a boundary, but instead of stating it cleanly, you spiral. What if they get upset? What if it's the wrong time? What if I sound selfish? Cold mind sees the loop. This is not thoughtfulness. This is hesitation, installed by years of fearing. Conflict. 5. You wait for others to set the tone. In social settings, you don't lead. You scan, you match, you follow, you adjust. To the loudest voice, the strongest presence, the dominant energy. Why? Because somewhere along the way, you were taught it's safer to follow than to steer. But cold mind knows this is a script, not a truth. 6. You apologize for your existence. You say sorry when you didn't do anything wrong. You feel guilty for taking time, space, attention. You move, like you're intruding even when you belong. This isn't being polite. This is a deep-seated pattern of self-erasure. 7. You believe strength must look loud. You assume that because you're quiet, calm, measured, you must be less powerful. You mistake external flash for internal power. But cold mind knows true strength moves without noise, and quiet doesn't mean weak. Here's the truth. Most of what you call just my personality isn't. It's the sum of scripts you didn't choose. It's layers of conditioning that shaped how you hold yourself, how you speak, how you act. Not because you were born that way, but because you were taught to survive that way. Part 4. Cold Unlearning. 3 steps to break weakness, scripts, and reinstall strength. Now you see it. The scripts, the patterns, the layers that have shaped your reactions. For years, cold mind doesn't stop at exposure. It moves to extraction. Here's how. 3 deliberate steps. No fluff, no emotion, just system rewiring. Step 1. Identify the weak script. Most people never break their patterns because they never name them. You can't uninstall what you haven't isolated. So first, you observe. You catch the moment. You shrink. You catch the voice that whispers, stay small. You catch the reflex that says, don't make waves. Cold mind recommends, write it down. Literally. When you notice yourself hesitating, apologizing, shrinking, capture it. Describe. What triggered it? What did you feel? What did you do? Why? Because pattern named is pattern weakened. Without awareness, the script runs you. With awareness, you start to hold the controller. Step 2. Break the pattern. Recognition alone is not enough. You must break the loop. Here's the key. You don't wait for confidence. To do this, you don't wait to feel ready. You act. When the weak script fires, act opposite. You hold your voice steady instead of lowering it. You take up space instead of pulling back. You speak first instead of waiting for permission. This is called pattern interruption. It doesn't have to be perfect, just opposite. Cold mind teaches you don't need a perfect replacement. You need a disruption, because every time you act outside the old code, you weaken its authority. Step 3. Reinstall strength scripts. Once you've broken the old loop, you must. Installation. A new one. Your mind doesn't tolerate a vacuum if you remove the weak pattern. But leave nothing in its place, the system reverts. So you craft and rehearse a strong alternative. For example, when the old reflex says, don't speak up, the new script says, deliver one clean sentence. When the old reflex says, wait for approval, the new script says, decide and move. When the old reflex says, apologize for taking space, The new script says, own your presence. Cold mind emphasizes, you don't wait. For the new pattern to feel natural, you install it. Mechanically, deliberately, repetitively. Why? Because your brain doesn't care. What feels authentic, it cares. What you repeat. Repetition equals truth. So you repeat. The strength script until it becomes the new automatic. Here's the breakthrough. You don't build new strength by stacking more effort. You build it by stripping old interference, by unlearning the clutter that chokes your original power. Cold mind knows you're not trying to become a new person. You're peeling back to the core that was always there. Strength isn't added, it's recovered. Theory is cold steel. Now let's see it slice clean through bone. Part 5. The one who unlearned weakness and walked into the room as a new force. He used to walk into rooms, small, careful, quiet. Not because he had nothing to say. Not because he lacked intelligence or skill, but because, for years, he'd been trained to shrink. In meetings, he waited for others to speak first. He softened his words to avoid sounding harsh. He let stronger personalities set the direction. At the end of the day, he'd wonder, why does no one listen to me? Why do I feel invisible? Then he found cold mind, and for the first time, he applied it. Step 1. Identify the script. He began noticing his internal loops, the silent permission-seeking, the nervous overthinking, the constant shrinking. When tension rose, he wrote it down. After each meeting, each conversation, he tracked. Where did I back down? Where did I soften unnecessarily? Where did I wait instead of move? This awareness, alone, shifted something. Suddenly, he wasn't just inside the pattern. He was watching it. Step 2. Break the pattern. Next, he acted. Small, sharp moves. In one meeting, he spoke first. Just one clear sentence. Not loud, not aggressive, but precise. In another, he held his posture. When challenged, didn't fold, didn't explain away. Each time, he broke the loop he felt. The old system crack. The room felt it too. People turned, listened, adjusted. Not because he was dominating, but because he was no longer shrinking. Step 3. Reinstall strength scripts. He didn't stop. At one-off wins, he crafted new scripts. When I enter, I set my posture deliberately. When I speak, I deliver one clean point. When I'm challenged, I hold silence before replying. He repeated these over and over until they became automatic. No more overthinking, no more second-guessing. Just presence. Clean, steady, unapologetic. The transformation wasn't flashy. He didn't become the loudest. He became the silent anchor. The invisible gravitational pull. The one who didn't chase validation. The one who didn't collapse under pressure. The one who moved without unnecessary noise. Here's what happened. People began deferring to him, not because he demanded it, but because his energy commanded it. Discussions slowed when he paused. Attention sharpened When he spoke, decisions shifted. When he leaned in, without asking, he became the force that bends the room. Cold, mind knows, unlearning weakness isn't about flipping a personality switch. It's about removing the invisible weights you've been carrying. It's about reclaiming the space, the clarity, the strength that was buried under years of conditioning. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be someone else. You just need to stop running the scripts that made you forget who you already were. Part 6. Final message. You don't build strength, you strip weakness. You keep telling yourself, I need to get stronger. I need to add more. I need to become something bigger. But cold mind knows you don't need to become more. You need to become less. Less noise, less hesitation, less apology, less weak code running your system. Strength isn't something you build on top of yourself. It's something you uncover when you strip away what was never yours. You weren't born to submit. You were taught to. You weren't born to hesitate. You were programmed to. You weren't born to shrink. You were conditioned to. And here's the shift. If it was installed, it can be uninstalled. If it was learned, it can be unlearned. If it was reinforced, it can be broken. Cold mind doesn't offer you a fantasy. It offers you a reset, a chance to walk back into yourself and reclaim what's been buried under years of conditioning. You don't need more tactics or hacks. You need clean awareness, clean cuts, relentless removal until the core stands. Sharp as steel, steady as stone, unshakable as gravity's pull, cutting through all resistance. Transition to next video, CTA. In the next video, we'll unlock Cold Identity Dash, how to dismantle the false roles you've been trapped in, and step into the architecture of unshakable self-definition. Subscribe, strip the layers, reset the mind, reclaim the you. The one sharp enough to cut noise, shatter resistance, and split the world itself apart.